I started Nature's Casket about 15 years ago, and over the years we've built hundreds, maybe 500 caskets. I want to show you how to make a simple pine box. We just start with 1x6 pine, and this happens to be blue stain pine from the pine beetle epidemic, also known as beetle kill pine. But of course you can just use any old pine. The first thing we want to do is create our top and bottom and sides and ends. And we do this by butt joining the 1x6s together, just glued together just like this, and that's a very strong bond. As you can see, it didn't break at the seam. The wood itself broke there. You probably don't have a contraption like this, which helps us hold the boards from buckling, but you don't need one. You can actually just get a couple other boards, put them across your glue up, and then just clamp them together to keep the boards from buckling. You'll need some either bar clamps or another kind of long clamp like this. And I'll provide a screenshot of plans for how to make this later in the video. We've got our glue up done here, and I have some previous glue ups. Now I'm going to cut the brackets, the feet for the bottom, and these will provide additional support. These are super strong. I put 600 plus pounds of concrete in one of these and hung it from the rafters of my garage. And I felt like the garage was going to fall down, but the casket was fine. So these are pretty rustic caskets, but you don't want them to be too rustic. So one of the keys is doing some good sanding, especially getting all the glue off, and if you have any ridges between the boards, you want to get those. Well, I found that the angle grinder with a flap disc, this is 40 grit, is the best way to really get into these boards, and that helps me take down any lips on it. Of course, you could use a belt sander on these. I've just found that that takes more time, and I can't really get those lips off as easily as I can with the angle grinder. But the problem with an angle grinder is it takes a little bit of skill to not gouge the wood. If I have any gaps or holes, I just like to use a little plastic wood. And then I just finished with an orbital, and that's 80 grit. You'll notice that some of the glue ups I have here are actually, we have some tongue and groove paneling as well as some shiplap. And that's just because that was the wood that was available for us at the time. This is the inside of the lid, and I'm going to put two brackets on. This is a medium. For a large, we will often put a middle bracket in there. And a lot of people request a split lid. That'll happen if there's going to be a viewing. And in that case, we'll generally cut these about 2/3 of the way, leaving the top half of the lid as a 1/3 piece that can be removed for a viewing. I countersink the screws just a little bit, and with that, the lid is pretty much done. We're just going to add a cross later to this one and the finish. This is the bottom and this is the inside of the bottom, and generally I want the inside to look decent. The outside of the bottom of the bottom, doesn't need to look great. Nobody's really going to see that. So these brackets provide extra strength. These are feet in a sense. And again, I just wanted to get one screw into each board for extra support. If this were a large, I'd have one more in the middle. And now there's one other thing that we do to the bottoms of these, and that's put little runners across here. And that's because a lot of times hearses have rollers, and if you just have these feet like this, it kind of bumps over the rollers. So we want something for it to be a smooth rolling function. So a lot of times I'll just grab a piece of scrap. The next thing we're going to do is put the brackets on the sides, and what we want to do is leave enough width for the ends at the end of these, so I'll use an extra one. And what you want to do also here is decide what's going to be the top and what's going to be the bottom, because you're going to want the gap here to be at the eventual top. I'm also going to pre-drill 2 holes in this bracket, which will attach it directly to the ends. Just put them at a little angle. So you want to get these at about 3/8 of an inch in. That'll put it in the middle of the end board. Now we're going to assemble this, and the way I like to do this is assemble it upside down. And we're going to first assemble the sides and the ends. What's going to biodegrade first? This thick chunk of wood or this thin little screw that's going to rust out? This is actually more biodegradable than the wood, and it just turns into little particles of rust and raw metal in the ground. So I don't have any problems in an eco sense using a small amount of metal fasteners. Okay, so you can see these screws are countersunk. You might have little gaps in here, but we're going to fix that soon. But you do want to try to get that tight, and you want to try to have this part flush. So one thing you want to do here is just make sure you get one side lined up. The sides and ends may not be a perfect rectangle. They might be a little trapezoidal at this point, but if you get one side secured, then we can push that other side into place. Try to get these guys about 3/8 in again, so you can get it right in the middle of these boards. And with a little bit of a countersink, that'll just get the screw head in there flush, like that. Just pull this, just like that, and that's basically making the bottom more rectangular. All right, now we're locked into the right shape. There might be some little lips. There probably will be some little lips. We're going to take care of those once we get it all together. Got my plug cutter. And of course, you do not have to do this, but I think it's nice to just cover those screw holes. Four plugs, usually enough. I can get 3 out of each one. Just put a little glue on each one. And just kind of place that into the hole. Okay, now I'm going to take my wood filler and I'm just going to get any little gaps or holes that I see, especially on these where the ends meet the sides and maybe where the bottom meets the sides. I'm going to take the angle grinder and especially work on where the lips are sticking out a little too much. Also the plugs, and just get those smoothed out. And then I'll go to the 80 grit orbital sander and kind of really work on smoothing out and rounding the corners and such. One of the things I'm going to make sure to do is just get these even. Kind of sand the little holes here and just check for any other little imperfections, and then round these edges a little bit. For the handles, we just use a 1/2 inch manila rope, and I cut those to 24 inches, and then they just get tied in with a single knot. And just make sure these are nice and snug, and then you can just pull on the handle. And I've never ever had one of these come loose. I think these handles are simple yet elegant. Now, if you want to get a little fancier, of course you can do wood handles, metal handles, prefab handles. This casket is for a family I've worked with in the past. We built a casket for the patriarch of the family some time ago. And now this is for his wife, the matriarch of the family. Well, they have requested a cross. To affix the cross, I center it and put it about 2/3 of the way up. And I just use 1¼ inch finish nails. So just make sure the lid is centered. I actually have about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch lip. And I countersink these as well a little bit. Now, we have done hinges in the past. Again, just much more complicated, but doable if you'd prefer that. Just get that a little countersunk. I finished this with a mineral oil, which just brings out the grain a little bit. We have done some other kinds of caskets, including toe pinchers, the hexagonal kind of coffins that you see from westerns and things, as well as using different kinds of wood, eastern red cedar in particular, and I'll put links to the videos in which I've made those caskets. I'm about to deliver this to the funeral home,